All right, boys and girls, today we are going to discuss the things that I look for when I am selecting a carrier and how I want to set it up. Hopefully these things will help you with selecting your next carrier or maybe just remodifying your existing carrier. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing that I look for is making sure that the carrier is cut for the plates that I'm wearing. And for the most part, that is sappy plates. You definitely do not want to buy a shooter or swimmer cut plate carrier, even though those are pretty rare if you have sappy plates, because they won't fit. Now you can put shooter or swimmer cut plates into a sappy cut carrier because they have a different angle, but otherwise the ride height is the same. So whether you have plates or not, make sure that your carrier is going to fit the plates that you have or you intend on acquiring. All right, that's going to be a big one. Another thing to look at is how the carrier is going to size to you. Where are the adjustment points? Typically on every carrier, your adjustments are your shoulders and your cummerbund. All right. I don't think I've seen another carrier that doesn't have those two features where you can adjust those. But you want to look at the overall adjustability between them to make sure that you are going to be able to size it to you. Even more important, if you're a shorter individual, you want to make sure you can get the plates up nice and high and make sure you bring the cummerbund away from your waistline. So if you are going to run a gun belt, the things on your cummerbund are not interfering with your gun belt. Another part of that is, how does it all go together? Like not just the adjustability, but how does it go together? So a downside to this carrier, and this is the RE Factor Tactical and Faro Concepts Advanced Slickster. So it's a Faro Slickster with some added features with the collaboration between Faro and RE Factor. I don't think they're running any more of them. This is kind of a tangent, but I don't think they're running any more. They may still have some in stock. It is a good carrier. So you can check them out and see if they have one in your size and colorway that works for you. But a downside with this, all right, I saw one review about it that was negative. I didn't see any other negative reviews about it, but the connection point of the shoulder strap into the rear bag. So it's fixed to the front bag and it goes into the rear bag, and there's 3 inches of hook tape that hold onto this strap. When I put the thing together, when I first got it, I was wearing it, didn't have any issues, and I have not had any issues of it coming apart or sliding apart while it's loaded out and I'm wearing it. But taking it off, I had it happen twice where the shoulder strap pulled out as I pulled the carrier over my head. So what I ended up doing to fix that was I got a piece of self-adhesive pile tape. I put it in the plate bag to connect these 2 straps down here so they can't really slide up, and then I made sure that my ballistic inserts are on top of the straps, and it kind of pins it between the plate bag and the armor and all that. So haven't had any issues since doing that. But just something specific to this carrier and something you want to look for is how are the adjustments made. Something else you want to look for with all of this, with your shoulder straps, is this a releasable carrier or not? Now, you may not need a releasable carrier. Being a Marine, and the vast majority of operations I did were maritime in nature, even if it was just ship to shore, that's in a helicopter over water. And unfortunately, Marine Corps helicopters do have a habit of crashing. So it is important that you are able to doff your equipment in that emergency egress situation, so you're not caught up on it. All right, there's a lot of history behind that. All right, you can look that up, or we'll save that for another video. I chose not to for my primary work carrier because being an instructor, I realized it would be very, very rare that I was going to be over water and need that. And I had other stuff that I could run for that scenario if I needed that emergency egress. So this doesn't have it. You may not need it, and so therefore you don't need to get a carrier that will ditch easily. All right. But moving on. So there's the sizeability, making sure it fits your plates. All right, we cover that. And then from there, what I look for and what I recommend you look for is something that is feature rich. The more features the carrier has, the more versatility it's going to be able to provide you. You just want to make sure that you are analyzing this thing critically to make sure these features aren't just window dressing. All right, so this was pretty feature rich. It has elastic for cable routing and hydration tubes and all that. It's got a zippered chest admin pouch built in. It has this little PTT loop for either side to side or top to bottom built in. It has a built-in kangaroo pouch, and it's set up so it will accept a multitude of placards or small chest rigs, whatever it is that you want to run. I've got some J Tactical Solutions J hooks, which is just some Tegris material, right, holding this placard on. It'll take the G hooks, all right, that's Pharaoh's style of doing things, and since the Pharaoh type carrier, that's how they're set up. But you could also put in the claws and buckles so that you could connect a Haley rig or a Spiritus Mark IV or any other placard or chest rig that clips in with side release buckles. So again, it gives me the options, all right, of building this thing out how I wanted to. It didn't try to kind of box me in with only being able to use side release buckle type placards or only being able to use G-hook type placards. I could do either or as many as I wanted as far as how I set it up. So I like that. The front pile field was not laser cut, doesn't have any kind of pals built in, which was a downside. Pharaoh does sell an adapter, which I was using for a while so I can mount an admin pouch. That's a downside. And then this admin pouch itself isn't that big. And I read a review that it wasn't that big and it's supposed to be sizable for a passport, and you could probably shove a passport in here, but it's going to be sticking out the top. So it's not the best, but it is something there that I can stick smart cards and stuff like that in here, but it's not tall enough for pens. So I kind of took roll the dice with that one. It's not the best, but it's still functional and it has worked well enough for me. Has a kangaroo pouch, so again, that built-in kangaroo pouch, if I wanted to slick this thing down, if I was doing anything motorized, low vis, and I want to wear this under a cover garment, I could. And then that kangaroo pouch, I could put a couple mags in there, and that will help hold it tighter overall instead of stacking a placard out, which would take up more space. So it gave me options. It's been really handy for mounting my knife. For a while I was carrying a map in here and I had my knife mounted in the kangaroo pouch on this. All right. I've got shears back here as well. All right. I actually don't use those for really anything medical related. They've got a bunch of other uses, but that's for another video. So the carrier had a lot of features, all right? And if I didn't say it, it does have the built-in wings for radio. It comes with the active retention bungees. So it had a lot of features. Right, a lot of features, and then the attachment point in the back for the Cummerbund is just hook and pile tape, Velcro, which is just simple. There's nothing wrong with the carriers that require you to tie it in with some shock cord or anything like that, but the hook and pile is just real simple. You set it and you're done. All right, so I did like that, and there are a lot of adapters out there, which is what I have on this one, so you can swap them out. It's also faster to swap out, so you could have Cummerbunds built out for specific missions, whether you're running as a breacher, you're running as a grenadier, you're just running as a rifleman or a medic or machine gunner, or you have to switch between billets. It would be very easy to switch out the cummerbunds because you just Velcro on, Velcro off, just like the front placard. All right, so that was also easy enough. So it had a lot of features, and it had features that I needed. I was looking at other carriers, but other carriers lacked the built-in internal pouches like the Kangaroo and the chest pocket. Other carriers didn't have the radio wings already built in, so that was going to be extra cost to buy a carrier that was going to be the same price as this one, and then buy the wing pouches, because I knew I wanted my radios on wings under the cummerbund and up front. So that's why I ended up going with this carrier over some of the other options, like a JPC 2.0, although I think that would have been probably my next go, or the Airlight. I was looking at the FCPC from Faro Concepts, and I was looking at the LV-119 from Spiritus. I looked at a lot of different carriers. I ended up settling on this one. Another thing to look for before I forget is weight. All right, getting a more modern carrier from brands like Cry or Spiritus or Faro. Yeah, you're gonna pay more. You're gonna be paying, $300, $400 for the carrier, but it's gonna be made of strong materials that are lightweight. If you go for a more bargain brand like Condor or 511 or some other ones out there, it's gonna be made with a Cordura that is very heavy. It's gonna increase the weight of your carrier. So the one I had before this, it was a great carrier, but it was heavy, because it was made kind of with older construction with real heavy Cordura, so it was really durable but really heavy. So you want to find that balance. So this is made with newer, lighter weight materials, so it might not be as durable as like a 1,000 denier Cordura, but it's durable enough, right? It's lasted me, I don't know, 5 years or so at this point. So it's a good carrier. All right, so that's kind of the carrier itself, right? The sizability, durability, how secure your sizing points are, right? Something to think about. It's one potential flaw with this, or is a flaw. And then, we'll talk about make sure features aren't window dressing. This chest pouch is kind of window dressing. It's not the greatest. If the zipper was up here where the stitching is, right, brought it up a little bit higher, it could have been the width of the plate bag like the FCPC. That would have made it a lot more versatile. And then if it had pile tape, so I could put some pen organizers and things in there, but it's just slick. So if I can't close that zipper, the retention of those items isn't great. So they have to be pretty short, because you can see I'm not even getting all the way up to that knuckle on my finger, right? So not great, but better than nothing, which is why I went with it. Built-in Kangaroo pouch is great. That is much less common with carriers. I would like to see it on more, but it's one of those features that people are kind of going away from, because you can outfit your different placards and micro rigs and really accomplish the same thing. Because the downside to the built-in Kangaroo pouch is when you throw on the placard, it does kind of take out some of that usability of that Kangaroo pouch. It cuts off the sides a little bit. However, it's still usable. I've put chem lights in these sides. All right, I've got my knife, my shears back here like I showed you, so there is still usability of it. Just something to keep in mind. So that's like the whole carrier, right? Feature rich, useful features, right? If you don't need a maritime releasable carrier, then don't buy a maritime releasable carrier, because you're gonna spend more money for the hardware and the time that was put into designing that carrier, where you can get something more streamlined and minimalistic. All right, especially if this is just for like home defense or prepping, whatever term, right? Zombies are coming. You're not going to need a maritime releasable carrier, so don't pay the extra bucks to get that when you can get something that will fit the bill without all that extra stuff on it. So, you know, a plate carrier is basically 3 components, right? You have your front bag, your rear bag, and a cummerbund. So let's talk about the cummerbund. So with cummerbunds, I am not a fan of having to lift up the front flap, bring the cummerbund around, and then close the flap up. I prefer to just size it, and then every time I don the carrier and I, clip in, zip in, whatever it is, it's set to that size, and I don't have to resize it. Also, I don't like the front flap because when you start putting mags and stuff in the flap, it doesn't raise up all the way, and then I have OCD and I want all my Velcro to line up, and if it doesn't line up, I freak out about it because I'm weird. So I wanted to get a cummerbund, and I wanted first spear tubes. I had one beforehand that had a proprietary Cobra release buckle. It was made by Arbor Arms back when they used to be Ares Armor. All right, great cummerbund, great buckle. The one downside to it was hard to release with one hand. I wanted something that was quickly releasable with one hand. Did a lot of research about first spear tubes, and I'm like, that's the way I want to go. So I found one. The cummerbund is made by A&A Tactical, and the other great thing about this cummerbund is, other than the fact you can get it with the first spear tubes, is every cell is actually a dual cell, right? So I've got a large cell in the rear and then a smaller cell in the front. That allows me to carry a multitude of different items. I have managed to wedge a smoke grenade in there. Not real comfortable, and I think that was going to stretch out the elastic pretty quickly. Being an instructor, one of the necessary items in a shoot house is an air horn. So I had a full-size canned air horn always carried in one of the cells. It fit that just fine, no issues, and I could put that in while I'm wearing it. The smoke grenade, I had to take the carrier off and shove it in. But really anything that is about the thickness of 2 rifle mags and that same general height is going to fit in these larger cells real easily, pretty well. And the front cell, anything that's about the size of a double stack striker fired pistol mag, or just double stack pistol mag in general, doesn't mean striker fired. It'll fit that. So like on the other side, I've got these training flex cuffs that sit in there quite nicely. All right. I've used the cells to carry firing systems for interior door charges. I play around with actually carrying the door charges in the cells themselves. I put chem lights in the smaller ones. Multi-tools, my shears, and then of course you put rifle mags. It has a lot of versatility, right? That's what I'm getting at. So it's feature rich, right? It has every slot is really 2 separate cells. It gave me the first spear tubes, so it's easy to get in and out. I can size it, and because they're an adapter, if I layer up underneath this carrier and it's a little tight, I can just open up the flap and move the adapters out a little bit and loosen or tighten the carrier that way instead of opening up the back and doing it back here. So still sizable on the fly as needed. It gives me the features I needed, and it was compatible with this carrier, so I can fairly easily swap it out. I just got to open up the plate bag opening. I can pull it off and move on from there. So that's what I like. The downside to this iteration of the A&A Tech Cummerbund is it cannot readily accept side plates. I can kind of jerry rig some side plates on there and they will sit right and they will do their job. they've started making one with a laser cut field on the back so that you can mount your side plates, right? So if you want an A&A tack and you're in a position where you are required or you want to have side plates, you can go through A&A tack, all right? But there's other companies out there, Arbor Arms being one with their Flex Cummerbund. But that's what I got, all right, again, because it was feature rich, it was scalable because I can run it slick or I can load it the hell out, and that gives me utility, all right? Moving to the front of the carrier, all right, real quick story with the tourniquet holders are from J Tactical Solutions, all right? They're great little tourniquet holders because they hold my tourniquets readily accessible and they provide reasonable protection for them. And I like the fact that they mount right up here. I used to try and like wedge them up top somewhere on my chest. And that's typically what I would use like these internal chest pouches for is my tourniquets. But this wasn't deep enough for that, nor is it wide enough to really comfortably fit the two cats. And it didn't work with the admin pouch on. So I had a lot of issues with that. I found J Tactical Solutions and I put these on. The only issue that I have had with mounting the tourniquets like this so they're just offset from the front placard is that when I draw my pistol, not every time, but about 2/3 of the time, my thumb is catching along here. Now it never slows down my draw. It's never made me screw up my grip or anything like that. However, you would obviously want to impact nothing on your draw. You wouldn't want any kind of impediment to going from holster to presentation. Because if you need to be going to your pistol, you need a working gun yesterday. So something to think about. All right, I still recommend them though, and they're great. And if you don't run a pistol, then you won't have that issue, all right, whatsoever. So they're good, and because again they're on these adapters, I can move them in and out as needed. This is the Shaw Concepts elastic placard, and again, elastic is great because it gives you a lot of utility. As you can see, I've got a couple of rifle mags in these two cells, and then I've got this little training flashbang body, all right? So I could put flashbangs, I could do all mags, I could do a pop-up flare, although that would stick up, but I would need extra retention. I can do firing devices and firing systems for charges. I can do really anything as long as it's about this size, right? About that thickness, right? Anything thinner than this, and it's not going to be retained as well because it was primarily designed for single rifle mags. But as long as I throw something in here that's about that thickness, then it's going to do just fine. And a great thing about this one too is the way that it's designed is the pouch stays open, so it's easy to index a mag, all right, back into the pouch. Whereas something like a Blue Force Gear 10-speed pouch, they're great because they collapse on themselves and they're super tight when they're empty, but they're also more difficult to index magazines and items back into. So it a lot of times becomes a two-handed job until you wear the pouch in, and then it starts looking like a strip of bacon and it hangs loose and the elastic wears out. So there's the downside to elastic is it's going to wear out a lot faster than just nylon, but it gives you more versatility. All right, so I went with it. Plus, you know, supporting the boys, Shaw Concepts. All right, they're Marines, and always want to support the boys. So it's a good placard. It gives me a lot of versatility, and that's what I want. Down here, this is actually designed for tourniquets, but I use it to carry my handheld light. All right. Where I put the handheld light has always been kind of a conundrum. I've carried it in one of these side elastic cells. I'm kind of moving around, but it's something that even though I have a light on the pistol, I have a light on the rifle, if I want the handheld light with a gun, I need to be able to access that light quickly. and I want it mounted somewhere where it's out of the way. I don't want to accidentally grab a handheld light when I'm going for a magazine. I don't want it to fall out when I'm climbing over walls and things like that. So I found that this spot down here has been pretty good for it. So that was a really good placard. All right. So to run as, you know, just an assaulter or rifleman, that's a great placard, and it gives me the utility of performing some other billets. For a long time, this was the placard that I was running with it, because it allows me to carry a firing device. All right, I can put my systems in here. These pouches work same way like the Team Wendy headband does. It's got the same BOA dial. So click it in, tighten it up, and there you go. All right, so they're very versatile in themselves. I can carry a multitude of items: magazines, firing devices, flashbangs, Motorola radios, pretty much anything that is thinner than a smoke grenade. Tried the smoke grenade, really didn't work. All right, but Motorola radio and thinner. All right, up to, again, this thickness. All right, you start going thinner than that, and you start running into issues with it being actually retained. However, it does have the loops, so you can throw active retention on there as well, which is a good idea. S-Tac mag pouch, so I can put a magazine in here, or I can put a tray of shotgun rounds, because that is the same thickness as this. So I could carry 12 rounds of 12 gauge breeching between the loops on the outside of this pouch and the tray that I can stick in here. All right. So with what's already going to be on the breeching shotgun and what I can also carry inside this pouch, I can carry upwards of 24 breeching rounds. It's going to be more than enough for the vast majority of operations. The great thing about this little placard too, as I already showed, it has its own built-in kangaroo, right? So if you get a carrier that doesn't have a kangaroo pouch built into it, you can find placards that have that built in. So for mounting your fighting knives, or it can be an admin pouch. All right, so you can put your maps in there, again, whatever you would need it for. If you don't need that, then don't buy one with the kangaroo insert. And then attached by just hook pile tape, I have my Spiritus lunchbox, which is my main charge pouch. So roll-up charges, interior charges, or smaller exterior strip charges go on here. Firing systems can go in here. I keep materials for site exploitation and things like that in here as well, with some red chem lights. But I can do a lot with this. And again, if I'm not running as a breacher, then I take this off, leave it behind, and I put on a more streamlined placard. So I have the versatility and the utility of being able to switch between loadouts, taking what I need, leaving behind what I do not. All right, those are big for me. So those are the things that I look for, and kind of the whys and why I have it set up. And then just a couple extra notes. I've got these long zip ties running over the shoulder. Most carriers are gonna be able to do that. On this one, they run into the rear plate bag. On other carriers, they may just run over the shoulder and through the PALS loops on the backside. That's good for securing detainees. So you use cuffs for wrists, and you use long zip ties around ankles, and you leave them there. That way they can't get up and run away, and then your ISR calls out that you've got a squirter with their hands secured behind their back running away from the target. Got my antennas routed, all right, all that good stuff, utilizing the features that came on the carrier. So I've made good use of the features that are on it, all right? So again, things that I highly recommend you look for: durability, sizability, feature rich, and then don't fall in love. Although it's nice if you can find a carrier that is already set up for everything that you want, but with the way that carriers are on the market right now, you can find good front and rear plate bags, and then you can find someone who's going to make a cummerbund that's better than what comes with the carrier or option to choose with it. So one of the things I like about Spiritus and Faro and some of the companies out there is you can just buy the plate bags from them, and if there is a better, or for your purposes better, cummerbund, well, you can go buy that cummerbund. You're not stuck with buying a full carrier, swapping out the cummerbund, and now you just have this loose cummerbund that you kind of just sits around in a gear bag somewhere because you don't want to throw it away, or you just end up throwing it away, which is basically throwing away money. All right, so that's been the video. All right, what I look for in selecting a carrier and its components to build it out and set it up for my needs: sizability, durability, is it easily scalable up and down to meet the missions and the billets, and through all those things, is it providing the utility that I need? Your utility is going to be a little bit different based on the number of missions that you need to perform, the number of weapon systems that you need to employ. So know what it is that you have to do, and then critically analyze your gear before you make that purchase. There's plenty of stuff online, reviews on company websites, there's a bunch of stuff on YouTube like this video. So do your homework and research, that way you can buy once and cry once. And I am Blake Flannery. I have my company Maneuver Training Solutions that does firearms training here in the Camp Lejeune area. So if you're in the area, or even if you're not, because I've had students come up from Florida, down from Jersey, and from Kentucky, check out the website. That link will be in the description below. All right, come get you some firearms training. You can also look up Orion Training Group, and that link will be in the description below as well. All right, I'm a member of the cadre for OTG. We offer classes in firearms, CQB, medical, comms, and we're going to be expanding that course list more and more and more as the company grows. So check out the website and the class list. All right, sign up for a course. Get yourself some training, because no matter how good your kit is, no matter how well set up it is, if you aren't trained, not just training in your kit, but if you don't have the hard and soft skills to go along with all the equipment that you're buying, you're just going to look like a really pretty corpse. So get your training. All right, I'm Blake Flannery with Maneuver Training Solutions. This has been a video on selecting plate carriers and some of the features and things to look for. All right, hopefully this helps you as a guideline in selecting your next carrier, or just reconfiguring your current carrier to work better for you if you were having some questions about that. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.